Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now recently I purchased some sandbags to go with my Action Man to make some little mini dioramas. Now these sandbags were originally released back in the 60s, 70s and 80s when Action Man was big, and you could get them in various play sets. They're not particularly complicated things. Let me just show you a couple here. They are a little bit of a Hessian bag with a bit of stuffing inside it. And the guy I bought them off, a guy called Tony Loiseau, said that he'd been making some of his own sandbags and would I like to have a go at making them? And of course the answer to that is always yes. So here we have a handmade sandbag. So he sent me some of the bits that I used to make this, and I'm going to show you what that is. So if you want to make some of your own, you can have a go as well. So let's take a look at that. Making the sandbags is actually a fairly simple process, and luckily Tony sent me some bits that he'd already made. So basically what he's done is he's bought some Hessian material. Now this material is the sort of thing that you would line the underside of furniture with or make sacks out of, and you can get it from a number of places. Some haberdasheries have it, or just furniture sort of upholstery places have it. You can actually buy it on eBay. It's a pretty common bit of fabric to buy. And what Tony's done is folded over a bit of the Hessian and then sewn with a sewing machine along the entire length of this strip of Hessian, making a line all the way down one side, and then just sewn across every sort of, oh well, let me measure it, that's the best thing to do. So the sewn across, and it is about 5.5 centimeters across there, and the length of one of these is 11 centimeters between each of the horizontally sewn lines. So you end up with little sort of pockets, and what we've got to do is take a pair of scissors and cut next to one of the lines where he's sewn here. So we'll do that, we'll just cut straight through like that, and we end up with a little sort of pocket. Now this needs to be turned inside out, and then we can stuff it with some stuffing material, that sort of thing that you would stuff a teddy bear with. So turning this inside out is a little bit fiddly actually. It's because it's a fairly small little pocket of material, so you've got to push everything through. I've actually done a couple of these before I started filming. I found the easiest way to do was to take a pair of scissors, and you can then sort of push the fabric in with those and gently sort of ease it up. There might be better ways of doing this, but this was the way I was doing and it seemed to work. It's just a bit of a fiddly job to push this through. There we go. Once it sort of eases halfway, you can then start pulling it the other way. Again, I'm just going to use the scissors here just to push the corners out. Those are the bits I found the most awkward, getting the corners to be sort of square again. Yeah, that's good. And now we've got the shape that looks more like a sandbag now that it's turned inside out. If I show you against an original one, you can see that's a pretty good shape. So now we just have to stuff this and then sew up the end. For the stuffing, I raided Mrs. toy-polloi's workroom here, and she has this soft sort of fabric stuffing. It looks a little bit like cotton wool, but this is the stuff that you would use to sort of stuff teddy bears or other things. So you just take a lump of that and push it inside. You want the sandbags to be fairly rigid. The original ones are actually quite sort of dense when you feel them, so you actually have to push in more of the stuff in there, which you would imagine. So you can see I put in quite a large amount there, but you still want to add more than that. So just pull little bits off and keep stuffing the sandbag until you feel it's firm enough. Let's compare those. That's starting to feel good. So now that we've got enough stuffing in, we can sew up this end. For sewing this up, I'm just going to use a needle and thread. I have some sort of beigey brown thread here again from Mrs. toy-polloi's sewing box, and I'm just going to carefully sew along this. It probably is better if you did this with a sewing machine like all of the other seams have been done, but as I said before in many of my videos, I'm not great with a sewing machine. I'm much happier when it comes to just sewing by hand, so I can just quickly sew this and it should do a reasonable job. I think if you have the skills, it'd be better to actually sew it with a sewing machine, but for me this will work just as well. So let's get this all sewn. Shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. And 5 minutes later I have another sandbag to add to the pile that I have here. So you can see they're pretty easy to make. The hardest bit is probably turning them inside out. The rest is just little bits of sewing. So I want to say a massive thank you to Tony for including a few of these sort of half-made sandbag kits in the lot of original sandbags that I bought off him, because they're really fun to make. I think I'm going to go and make a few more, because it doesn't look like I have near enough to make a good diorama. So off to make a few more of these. So I hope that's been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter and Facebook.